Hey everybody, this is Tim. I'm at Grand Nationals. It's Thursday. I'm here with Noah Bellamy. Noah, how are you?
Good. How are you?
We're like, there you are in the flesh, right next to me.
I know.
We're sitting on the steps
for
in the
the
middle
first
of
time ever.
Yeah, it's super. So you're doing such great work on so many different ways. We're sitting having conversations about Infinity Percussion and Plymouth, Canton, and God, now there's going to be Madison,
yeah,
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's exciting to talk to you. So,
that's awesome.
But I just saw Plymouth, Canton. First
Yes.
off, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Super creative, loved it. So you were the drill writer?
I was the drill writer, and Rick Subel was the program coordinator, and
Oh,
Rick and I
is so great.
I know, Rick is awesome.
You guys
and,
work together a lot?
We have worked together. This is the second project. He was
Okay.
in, when I did Troopers years ago, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, he came in for a little bit, one of the years that we were there. So this is kind of the second time that we've worked together, but this is by far the closest that we've ever worked.
Really creative.
Yeah, it was awesome, and this has all been his brainchild and stuff, and it's been so fun bringing a lot of his thoughts and stuff to fruition. It's been
very
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
I loved how the set kept changing. Like it starts with the black, and then they turn, there's color, then a new color comes. Like that. All that's really, really interesting. That to me is an example of smart prop, does a lot, not that hard to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like props don't have to be wildly complicated to create a lot of effect.
For sure.
Like that changed the stage 4 times.
Yeah, and it's one of those. We got the idea because I work with Center Grove in the winter with their winter drum line, and they have props that they've used the last couple of years with their marching band that are essentially just scaffolding. They bought these scaffolding, and then with the scaffolding you can manipulate them to be whatever you want. So what we've done is we've taken these scaffolding that we get at Lowe's or whatever, and they're not that expensive, but then we put these giant frames on them, and so now they become these really sturdy backdrops that we use. And then with that,
very smart.
We can manipulate them in a lot of different ways, which is awesome. Yeah.
Did you know I marched in the Phantom Regiment with Kevin Chesler?
Awesome.
You know we go way, way back.
That's great.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Okay, so anyway, I had to throw that in because I've known Kevin since 1980.
Yeah.
That's how old I am, people. I was a tiny, tiny child. Anyway, I'm way off track. So you set the backdrops up in this really interesting curve, and they stayed there.
Yes.
Which I liked that too, because I think in this day and age of props, it's very hard. People get really intimidated. They think they have to do a whole lot.
Yeah.
That worked for me. So how did that affect, obviously, I know, I'm just gonna ask you, that affect how you staged the drill?
It affected a lot, and we also took the front ensemble and put it on the field
Which
too.
was in a cool
so
place.
It created this it was very different to write drill to that, because we didn't have that kind of those like big deep pockets to write drill to. The stage that we had in essence became very long, it became horizontal, and it was pretty shallow. So, all of that is to try and kind of compress the field a little bit, because the band, we don't have the numbers that some of these other bands have. So
Super
we're trying
smart.
to manipulate the field a
Great
little bit.
example of creating a smaller stage and an interesting stage. So as a drill writer, did you find that was limiting, or were you like, let me see how creative I can be with this weird shape I have?
I think it's more that. I think it was it was definitely limiting, but I think that Rick and I approached it in a way like, how can we be creative in different ways? And then the other issue it creates is that from a music standpoint, there's very few times that we get the battery like in the hot spot right behind the horns.
Interesting.
So it created a lot of ensemble timing things throughout the year that I thought they pulled off really, really well today.
Oh yeah. In fact, that didn't even occur to me.
I know. Good.
So that's mission accomplished.
Yeah, for sure.
And as a drill writer, normally I would be aware of that, but I just thought this is really interesting. And I liked how there were things happening. It's very wide and not deep, which is the way I write drill too. I write drill all the time that way.
Right.
I don't understand. I have friends that write real deep.
Yeah.
I never write deep drill. My drill is always wide.
Yeah, exactly. And we wanted this to be very cinematic, and we wanted it to be, the whole idea was that it's a surreal dream, and anything can happen in that environment. We had some voiceovers that didn't trigger this morning, which explained the story a little bit more. But even without those, I think the show reads pretty well, and I think the kids just did an absolutely great job. They've been working really, really hard this year to make this work, because it's the set and stuff has presented a lot of challenges this year that I'm not sure we were totally expecting when we put it together. And I thought the kids pulled it off absolutely to the best of their ability today.
No, I loved it. Great job. Certainly the staff's doing a fantastic job. So my hat's off to everybody there.
Yep.
So many interesting ideas. I loved that the woodwinds did some flag in the ballad.
Yep.
I thought that was super effective. You want to talk about that? Also loved how you staged some of them back behind.
Yeah, exactly.
That was really interesting.
Yeah, and that's, once again, I mean, with the numbers that we're dealing with, we have a super talented guard, but there's like 18 of them. So when we have this, once again, really large cinematic, like stock ballad hit, we wanted to have just this overwhelming sense of color.
Beautiful.
So we took, I think there's like 50 of the woodwinds, 48 woodwinds or something, and they come out on these big, gorgeous swing flags, and that was all, that was all tied into the color of the props, because that's when the props change as well. So So the flag print matches the prop and everything, and it's this real gorgeous,
beautiful
surreal, beautiful moment.
And you know what happened to me was, I guess the reason I thought the design was really brilliant was because I remember thinking, this is so beautiful, and then I thought, who is that? Yeah. And then I said, I think that's the woodwinds. And then I looked over there and I said, okay, the woodwinds aren't playing, but I didn't notice. So the way that the music was orchestrated,
for sure,
was like a home run.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like something doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
It was just like, I love this sound, and you chose to let them play this visual role, but I didn't miss them for that moment, because I had heard them plenty.
Yeah,
in the show.
And that was definitely done by design. Steve Vento does the horn book, and when we came up with
Steve,
this,
good for you.
I know. And when we came up with this idea, it was one of those that we had to talk to him, and there were some things that needed to be reorchestrated because of when we needed to get the woodwinds off, and knowing that like this was written a certain way, but now we don't have woodwinds for 32 counts of it or something. It now needs to be written in a different way, So he did an amazing job with creating that moment visually. And yeah, the hard part with any of that stuff obviously is the transition of getting 50 kids off of the field and then back on, and then off again to get their horns and then back on.
But so because of the placement of the backdrops sort of dividing the field, it did allow you to have people get on and off quickly and grab their horns and come back out. I thought that was, the transition was really fast.
Yeah, it was. It was. And that was a work in progress.
People, I'm having some little video clips I'm going to put on here. Like, notice how they're placed and how people can move so quickly. I thought it was all very smartly done.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because people need to do this. They're trying to use props, but this is like smart.
Sure.
Like, it worked. Even though it did present challenges.
It presents challenges, and it's one of those things that, like, what you saw today was the 10th different manifestation of that moment.
I can only imagine.
It's seeing it and then getting feedback on it from judges or whatever, or us just knowing like something's not right or this needs to be this, and everything has to have a purpose. Every transition has to have a purpose. We can't just run 50 kids off the field and say they're going behind the prop. There has to be something that motivates that and pushes that around. And in this case, we recently added a flag soloist that then started to push the woodwinds out behind the props and started to move them where they needed to be, and taking your eye somewhere else so that you don't notice this over here.
So there's a logical things that push and motivate, and this, you can't just have everybody run for fabric.
For sure. And the funny thing with all that stuff is like you put so much time into that, and your goal is to just hope that no one notices it. It's like,
of course,
you put your time into other things like a drill move, and you want people to notice it. And this one, it's like the reward for this is that no one says anything about it.
And drill writers know how frustrating this is. That if they do their job correctly, people don't notice they've done their job.
For sure.
But how thrilling is it when suddenly there's a flag?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Remember, I think about all those Cavaliers shows back. I guess it was, God, when was that? The 90s? When they would just suddenly everybody had a new, I don't know. It seemed like there was such genius in those transitions back in the day.
Yeah. Well, and I think, if we're looking late 90s.
Today too. But
but
I'm thinking like late 90s cabbies, and like all of a sudden there's this pink fabric everywhere, and you're like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
Like, that's genius stuff.
Yep. Well, that's Mike Gaines there. And he's the best,
of course,
transitioner of anybody, I think. So it's awesome.
You're the transition king. We'll get you a shirt. So really briefly, I just want to mention, I loved Infinity Percussion last year. Cool. The circus show, I just thought it was fantastic. You were like visual stager guy? What would be your title there?
I mean, it
Shout
takes a village
to everybody
down
at
there.
Infinity. I loved it.
The challenge always at Infinity, when I first started doing Infinity years ago, I lived in Tampa, so I was really close and I could be there all the time. I since moved to Michigan, so now the challenge is how do you do that? So having Richard Cravens there and having that team that is there, it helps a lot. So I do a lot of the staging, and Richard does a lot of the producing, which is awesome.
I loved it.
It was really good.
We got great things in store again, I guess, this year?
We do. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, we've got an opener done. We've got a costume design. We've got a show put together. We're ready to go. And a line is set. So
since I live in Orlando, I will hopefully
that's awesome.
Be able to go check those guys out again.
Yeah.
So I also want to mention Madison.
Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah.
You're right in the drill.
I am.
Everybody's excited about what's going on. I think Jason Robb has put together such a great team.
It's been so much fun.
The vibe is exciting.
The vibe is super exciting, and we're going to be. I fly to Orlando Monday, and we're meeting together in Orlando Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's our second kind of design retreat that we've done in person, and we're doing it. I mean, we're hitting the ground and running. I think we're all really excited about it. We're excited about the opportunity of being co-ed this year.
Sure.
And what awesome opportunities that gives us, and what we can do. You know, one of the things that Jennifer's been doing with the show a lot in the design process here is like thinking that this is the only year we get to do this. You know, this is the first year that they're co-ed, so this is a very special year. After this year, we're just a normal drum corps like everybody else. So what are we going to do to make this one special? And I think we're doing a lot of really cool things. So I think it's going to be really neat. We're all super pumped about it.
Well, and a little earlier, I talked to Daniel Montoya Jr., who's standing right over there at the General Effect clothing booth.
That's it.
I'm going to be wearing my General Effect shirt soon.
He's trying to sell his pants, too. He's trying to get me to buy
big
those
on the pants. Yeah, they look very comfortable.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know. But anyway, the point I made to him was, I feel like every drum corps fan loves the Scouts.
I think so too.
Like it's just one of those corps. It's in the DNA somehow of drum corps, and everybody wants them to be wonderful. And I particularly want them to be Scouty.
Yep.
This is my word. I want them to be Scouty. I want everybody to say that was the Scouts. Like that's.
I agree with that.
So I'm no pressure, but I'm just putting it out there as a drum corps fan.
I agree.
I want them to be Scouty.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean, and we have talked about that many times in our discussion.
Oh, I'm sure.
So,
I'm sure.
So I think there's a very fine line that I think a lot of corps like the Scouts and these historic drum corps that have been around forever, there's that line of like, we want to be modern, we want to be relevant, but we also want to be the Madison Scouts.
That's right,
you know, we also want to be the Troopers or whoever it is, you know,
or the regiment,
for sure.
There's a lot
and it's
of those
hard.
corps. Yeah.
It's really that's
a bit of a burden. It's a little bit of a burden.
It can be for sure. You
but
know,
it's
when you
also
look
an
at
opportunity.
it is. I think so too. You look at some groups that don't have the tradition that those corps have, and they can do anything they want. That's awesome, but they also don't have the tradition that those groups have. You know, it's always like it's a double-edged sword there, I think. So we're definitely talking about it a lot.
I'm excited
we are too.
I'm excited that you're the guy. Like we're counting big on you, man.
Yeah, I know.
For drum corps fans,
I'm excited.
I have a good feeling.
Yeah, it's going to be nothing but fleur-de-lis the whole time. Just different.
And a lot of company fronts that go like
this.
It's
company fronts and fleur-de-lis constantly.
That's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be really good.
I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a real creative gym.
Yes.
Okay, so I know that you're starving and you want to go eat, so I'm going to let you go. But thank you for talking. I know. So
no,
thank
this
you for
is
talking
awesome.
to me.
I'm so glad that we got to do this.
Thank you for meeting me, for talking to me. It's wonderful to see you in person.
Yep.
You were on the podcast with Shane.
BD94.
It's out right now, so everybody check that out.
Yeah.
You were wonderful.
Do it.
That was great.
So much fun. That's
one
of my favorite shows ever. And
DCI Rewatch, everybody check those out.
There's so much fun.
Roundtable.
And the Leon one too, if you haven't done that. That 85 Cadets one was amazing.
There's a whole bunch more of those that are going to be really fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking to me.
Yeah,
You're awesome.
Thank you, Tim.
All right.
Thanks for all you do.